Hey everybody! In today's video, I'm going to show you an oldie but a goodie. If you are not using all those party napkins right now, this is the video for you. I'm going to show you how to turn beautiful napkins into fun paper crafting projects with no waste. To begin with, I have one of my mini slimline cards. I buy these already cut and scored, and that's super convenient. And I'm applying matte medium all over this to stick the napkin down to. Now you'll want to separate the napkin from the tissue backing, but don't throw that away because we will be using that. And then just apply the napkin to the card. Be gentle when you are applying the napkin. It can tear because it's so thin. So I like to just flip the card over and press that down onto my mat. But don't worry if there are wrinkles or gaps because we will be fixing that at the end with a topical application of 2 different mediums. You can go around the corners and add a little bit of matte medium if you need to. Honestly, doing it on a folded card made it a little bit harder than it needed to be. So you might want to just trim a card panel to the same size as your card and do that just to make it easier to sort of trim that off. But we will finish that. I'll show you how we finish that later. Now take the tissue piece that you removed, and I like to crinkle it all up because this is a fun texture technique, and I like all the little extra wrinkles. And this time I do just have a card front. And I got this big box of these sheets of parchment, and this is so convenient when you're doing messy crafts. You can use them a couple times, fold them up, but then you can just toss them when you are done, which is super helpful, and there's nothing to clean up. So when you're putting the tissue part down onto your cardstock, make sure you get maximum wrinkles. Make sure it's all squished up the way you like it, and then go ahead and put matte medium on top. This does 2 things. It sort of preserves your texture, but it also goes through that thin layer of tissue to make sure that it's completely adhered to your cardstock. So it's sort of a 2-for-1 application of the matte medium, sort of like we're getting 2-for-1 cards here today with both pieces of the napkin. Now I'm going to dry it a little bit with my hand dryer. This will dry the thinner layers of matte medium. And then I will apply a little bit of heat on the thicker ones, but because matte medium is an acrylic medium, you don't want to apply a lot of very hot, very direct heat to that, or it will bubble, which could give you some cool textures. So it's not completely out of the question, but I get enough texture from the tissue that I didn't want to add any bubbling. So I'm trying to do most of my drying manually, and I find this little tool is super handy. Plus it's really quiet. So if you're crafting late at night, this is a great way to dry your projects, and it counts as a workout. So when you get done drying that, the tissue is really easy to tear away from the edges of the card. And I really recommend that as a first step, especially if it's still wet at all. It's very easy to just pull off. And I have this sped up a little bit, so it's a little shaky. Sorry about that. And this, I think, would make a great mummy technique for Halloween. So if you had a little Halloween die cut of some sort, this would be super cute for a texture that looks sort of spooky. Once that's dry, we'll go around and trim that up with scissors so those edges are all nice and neat. But like I said, I am going to just quickly add a little bit of heat because I am going to add some coloring mediums to this. And I do need that to be really dry. One of the best ways to get the mediums all over the card front is to help it along with water, because I am using a water-based coloring medium. And in order to do that, I really need the underneath layers to be dry. I don't want them pulling away from the cardstock because the matte medium wasn't dry. So just get it as dry as you can, or even better if you can just walk away from it for an hour and you're not filming a video, that would be ideal. So I can just straighten that out after heating it up and then trim up the edges and make it nice and neat. This is a super simple process and it doesn't take very long. The matte medium in my climate would probably only take 15 to 20 minutes to dry with air conditioning and all of that. So it's not a super long process. So once that is all trimmed up and looking neat, then we can add a little bit of color. So I love just being able to get a new sheet of this parchment. It comes in these sheets, like just in a box. You can just grab one. It's really nice. So now I will hit it once more with the heat gun. You can see in those places where it's a little bit thicker, that's where I have a little bit more matte medium. So I just want to make sure that that's dry. And I have these beautiful iridescent inks. These are calligraphy inks. I'll put a link to these down below, but they are spectacular. You do need to shake them up. They do have mica suspended in them, so you need to shake them really well before you use them, but they have a nice little dropper, and they come in a bunch of beautiful colors, so I'm really happy about those. Now I'm using my little sprayer, and this sprays a really fine mist that you can control really well. And if I make sure that I'm just spraying the areas that are dry, the ink will sort of come towards that area, just like you see with watercolor. Watercolor is always going to travel across the wet surfaces of the paper. I love that mixing where the gold and the blue turn sort of green up in that corner. I think that's amazing. But you can see how easy this is to get. It's really almost like a topographic map. The colors, these two colors that I've chosen here. So that would be another fun use of this technique, is if you have like a travel or a map themed card. I think that's just gorgeous. So, so pretty. So now we will finish the other piece. I love how different these look. This one really looks like a completely different technique from just the classic paper napkin crafting. There are lots of ways that you can use paper napkins on your cards or your art journals. There's a very old video of mine of a paper napkin technique where you sort of laminate it to your card. And I'll link you to that if it's still on my YouTube channel. It was so long ago. And I did it live at a big craft fair here in Austin, and everybody just loved it. I think that's the reason everybody has boxes and boxes of napkins. So you can see that you have little gaps on the first one where it's not adhered down to the cardstock. Like I said, don't worry about it. This second process is going to completely meld that napkin with the cardstock. And the first step is just to put another layer of matte medium on top of it. And I still need to trim the top part of that card where it's by the crease. Like I said, I probably should have just done a card panel, but I didn't. So it is what it is. But this will make sure it's completely glued down. So don't feel like you have to be super perfectionist in that first step, because you really don't. This seals it all in and makes it perfect. Now I have a little bit of paper glitz here. This is an interesting topper for this because it has both glitter and mica. So it's shimmery and there's a little sparkle from the glitter, and the glitter will not come off. It's just totally trapped in this glaze, but you do need to stir it up. The glitter will kind of settle around the edges of this little jar. So I just take my little spatula and mix that in really, really well. And you can see how shimmery and beautiful that is. And then I used to use a toothpick to stir it up. And I was like, why don't I just use the thing that I'm applying it with? I don't know what that was about. Why get two things dirty? So then just apply that evenly all over the card, and it's so shimmery and beautiful. It is such a pretty look. So here is how I finished that beautiful sparkly card, just with a simple word die. I did end up cutting it down just a little bit, and then I made a mini slimline envelope with my envelope die, which I love. Here's how I finished the blue and gold card. Very, very fun. So head over to my blog for more information, and thanks so much for watching.